Yeah.
I can be French.
I think it's, yeah. You know? Yeah. Good. Okay.
And am I looking at the camera or at
You're
you?
going to be looking at
you.
me. Yeah. What are the issues that kind of trigger development of a pathoplexus?
So in the pandemic, I think it became really clear how important it is to have good data sharing be available and to make sure that that's equal and that people feel like it's easy and it's accessible. And we felt like that's something that even though there's a lot of databases out there, that's still missing. And it was something that I think the pandemic highlighted we need to be a little bit more conscious of. So what we're aiming to do with Pathoplexus is really fill that gap to make uploading sequences incredibly straightforward and friction-free, but also provide some protections to submitters so they feel safe sharing that data very quickly, and then finally making sure it's accessible to everyone to use for research and public health.
The issues around sharing of data, is that just because now the LMICs are getting into the action and they've been upset about sharing data and other people using it, or is it also sort of a northern problem?
So I do think, unfortunately, we have a history of helicopter science when it comes to LMICs, and that has certainly burned some bridges and it's eroded trust. So I think it's absolutely worthwhile being upfront about that, being forward with the fact that we need to rebuild that trust. But this is also a problem in developed countries as well. We do have bad actors that use data in ways that is not always so ethical, and so I hope that Pathoplexus can help to address that for everyone.
So the easy bit, what are the challenges you're facing with easy?
So in some of the existing databases, they support much more than just viruses that infect humans. That means that they need to be ready to take sequences from snails, from bacteria, from vectors. And that's wonderful, but it means the submission process can be very complicated. It might reference chromosomes or whether you're haploid and diploid. Obviously, none of this applies to viruses, and especially when people like clinicians or people that are based in the lab need to then upload sequences, they can get very confused about all of the options. So with Pathoplexus, because we focus just on human viruses, we can really streamline this process and make it very straightforward.
You were engaging with other humans as well over the workshop today. This was a sort of introductory sort of course.
Yes.
So what kind of things were you looking at?
Today was really exciting because it's the first dedicated workshop that we've run on Pathoplexus, and this covered a lot of the basics. So we did an introduction explaining about what Pathoplexus's aims are, what we're trying to do, and what our goals are, how we treat data. And then we taught the users how to walk through the database, how to identify data, how to create a user account, how to upload data, and how to make sure that that has the data restrictions that they're looking for. And so far the feedback has been good, so I'm very hopeful we'll have some new submissions in the coming weeks and months.
I did a bit of eavesdropping, and you were talking about different levels of expertise among the delegates. What kind of challenges do those pose for the Pathoplexus working well, operating well?
So this is always a challenge when you run a workshop. It's quite rare that you get a group of participants that have exactly the same background. And in many ways, it's exciting not to have that because we had people from public health, bioinformatics, even software developers there. Of course, the downside is that you have people that are more familiar or less familiar with websites or with using different types of commands. So you have to then aim the workshop assuming that people don't have much knowledge, which can sometimes mean it's a little boring for those that are more expert. We tried to find a balance where we covered both the basics, but also had some more advanced API calls as well.
Sort of among African delegates, there's always a question about data security. Who's going to use it, what they're going to use it for. Does that come up at all? Is that an issue of concern?
We haven't had this raised today at the workshop, but we're very aware that it's something that many countries in Africa and that participants in Africa are thinking about. In Pathoplexus, when you upload data, you can either make it completely open, which means anyone can use it, or you can have it be restricted use. And what that means is that other people can't use it in preprints and publications without your explicit permission. And this does a lot to alleviate fears about data being scooped and published without the original submitters being involved. And it means that people can feel more open to sharing that data quickly, for using it for outbreak response, for example, while still knowing that they can be the first people to publish on it.
Did you have quite a sort of diverse grouping in the class? because I understand the joy, I would assume, of being a member of Phage is you have all these people coming from all corners of the world with different experiences. Does that help, or is it just a headache to accommodate everyone?
No, it's definitely not a headache, and it's definitely a big pro of being part of Phage. So in our official sign-up, we had people from 12 countries, but we actually had some last-minute attendees, and so we had even more countries participating than that. And we also, as I mentioned, had people that were bioinformaticians, that were from public health, that were lab scientists, and that were software developers. And this is actually really important because it can be very easy to have a narrow tunnel view of how data sharing should work if you're just looking at it from your perspective. But when we have participants coming from all over the place, they can help us to realize maybe something that we've missed or a feature that we don't have that would be really important to them. So that diversity is actually super important and super exciting.